let's talk about the why behind self-blended learning. And I also want to address a couple of common critiques of this approach to self-directed and self-blended learning. So the why is this. I really believe that self-blended learning and self-directed learning are critical 21st century skills. I believe that they're a form of literacy, the ability to learn. I know Toffler's talked about that before. This ability to learn and unlearn and relearn, that really is a critical skill. It's a critical literacy for life in an increasingly connected world. So think about all of those aspects of life in a connected world: access to information, learning tools and technologies, people and resources. If you don't know how to take advantage of that, imagine how much of a disadvantage you can be at in the workplace, as a citizen, just life in this world. So I believe that it's really key to access and opportunity, really empowering people with a sense of agency and self-confidence and the competence to learn throughout a lifetime. That's why this really matters. This is, in my mind, a critical social issue that I believe that we can tackle if we can begin to empower and encourage and create space for people to self-blend and to self-direct. In some ways, this is putting digital teeth on the adage, give a man a fish, he'll have fish for a day. Teach a man to fish, and he'll have fish for a lifetime. That's what we're doing here, right? But man, is the fishing pretty amazing in this connected world. So there are a couple of common critiques, though, that I think it would be valuable to talk through, or at least to introduce, and maybe we can talk through further beyond this video. The first one I get sometimes is, yeah, this is great. If you're an autodidact, if you are this really gifted and gifted learner, this is a wonderful concept, but it doesn't work for your average student. And I beg to differ. In fact, I know with certainty that this does indeed work, and it does happen with a wide variety of students because I've seen it. This is something that's actually happening in our schools, whether we know it or like it or see it or not. There are self-blended learners all around us. And my guess is if you really dove in, you dug into it, you would find that there are a wide spectrum of people. People that you might not have even imagined that they'd be self-blending in the ways that they are. We'll take some time to dig into cases and examples as we explore this further. But I'll at least mention that much for now. And here's another one that's really related, and I'm concerned about this. Some people say, well, self-blended learning is great for these students, but not for those students. And you could fill in the blank of what I mean here. I think sometimes there are undertones of racism, there are undertones of classism, and all sorts of things that come into this concept that self-blended learning is for certain populations and not for other populations. But it really troubles me. I'm concerned about it, and I think we need to tackle this head on because it's just not true. Self-directed learning and self-blended learning are visible across socioeconomic lines, across the different types of people that we have in our world and in our learning communities. We see people of all types who are capable of doing this. Some people might have backgrounds and experiences that might discourage them from embracing a life of self-directed learning. Maybe they've had people in their community or their family or their schools that have not really encouraged them, or it's been discouraged in some way. That's a possibility, I suppose. But that is not, that's not destiny. Those aren't genetic predispositions away from self-directed learning. Anyone can become a little more self-directed learning. Now, I'll recognize a reality. I mentioned people like Tesla and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Edison and Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, we're not all going to be a Tesla or a Leonardo da Vinci or some of those folks. But let's say that we've been gifted here. By learning and embracing the concepts of self-directed and self-blended learning, we can get ourselves here. So maybe you start at a different place than another person in terms of your giftedness for music or art or science or something like that. Maybe that's true in terms of a genetic predisposition or something like that. But the reality is, by being nurtured and encouraged to embrace self-directed and self-blended learning, you can get a whole lot better than you are now. And that's really the vision. The vision here is, comes back to that question. How can we help more and more people embrace the power and the possibility of self-directed and self-blended learning?